Look at this, dude. This is the most disgusting car I've ever touched. Behind me is a piece that we've been waiting for a long time. Quite possibly one of the sickest components of the C8. It's the transaxle mount. It goes from this side of the frame rail to the other, and it will pick up the transaxle. It'll mount it in its place. And there is a ton of time that Chris has on the computer, all the CAD engineering behind it, and almost 2 full days of machining at Rob's machine shop. He absolutely went above and beyond for us, offered up his equipment, and let us basically take over one of the sickest 5-axis. I don't know nothing about those things, but a sick ass CNC. So thank you, Rob. Thank you, Chris. They spent an entire weekend machining this thing. And I want to show you guys just kind of what went into making this part. I have a ton of footage, engineering footage, machining footage, all of that. So check this out now, just so you can enjoy this piece as much as I did. Thank you, Chris and Rob.
So I just got to Maztec Industries. This is the machine shop that Rob Bellis works at, Rad Rob on Instagram. So he's the one helping us machine the transaxle crossmember that I designed. Hey Rob, how's it going?
Good, good.
So what you working on?
Just wrapping up some finishing touches on some tool paths here. You can kind of hear it running in the background now, but basically what we got is, we start with our big chunk. We've got our stock here. So this is what the bar essentially starts out as. This is what the part looks like inside the stock. Really, it comes down to sort of troubleshooting. How do you want to hold this thing? How are you going to fixture it? You have to think about the second side of it, so that was a little bit of a challenge. We can kind of we'll talk through that when we get to it. But basically all we do is you're just kind of chiseling away at it with a very expensive machine and a lot of tooling. But basically come in here and I'll just kind of backplot it a little bit here. You can kind of see the tool path just sort of works its way around. Start slowly chiseling away at it. Basically rough it out, come in here. This is the important part of this piece, are all of these surfaces here. So this is basically your datum structure, where everything's kind of locating off of these surfaces. So we finish these things nice and smooth, and then we avoid them with the ball end mill so they're nice and flat. Then we come in here and hit these walls. So you kind of designed this part so that these 2 walls here are straight, so we could grip on it, and we're gonna do that, not 2. Then we kind of come through here, work through all the drills, bore out the holes. I'm sure we'll show this too, but this is where we were working on putting all the threaded inserts in here for the strength. So those will get put in after these get anodized. Kind of work through that, work through all these holes. Over here, you've got some slots. So this is, I think, to allow a little bit of, a little bit of wiggle room, some shift if the holes don't line up. And then once we do that, then it's the big surfacing. So this operation here is what actually leaves the tool paths on the part that you see. You kind of just strategically do that with a certain step over size to give it a kind of a nice characteristic to it. We didn't have a whole lot of time to create this part, so these tool paths are sort of what we came up with in a short period of time. We're only making one of these. We're not worried about efficiency or run times. We got nothing but time to make this thing. So, this is, we could have made the program a little more efficient, but for the one part, we just want to make sure it's right, make sure it looks good. So tool kind of works its way around, surfaces all of this.
So we're pretty much starting with a, I think about 58-pound block of aluminum here, and then the finished product's gonna weigh somewhere between 12 and 13 pounds.
Yeah, and you can see too, I've made a simplified model here, so your finished model has all of the cutouts, and that's kind of take some weight out of this thing. So I can turn on, I've made a simplified model where I basically plugged all of those holes, and this is actually what we're machining. So that way, when that ball end mill shaping everything, it's not gonna try to gouge into all those surfaces. It gives you a better surface out of it. After this tool path runs here, then I basically come back in, rough these pockets out, and then we come back in and finish them. Same way we did the outside. This step over is a little bit bigger, just kind of give it a little bit different characteristic there. These cutouts here are so I have a machined surface that was used while we were machining this, so these are perfectly located to the part. Now when we flip it over, I can probe the 2 ends here to find center line, and then I'm going to use this for my Y0 and ready. I didn't have time to build some crazy intricate fixture for it, but we're going to make do. I still have to make some custom riser blocks for it. We'll show that when we do op 2, but that's basically how we get through op 1. We'll flip it over, then we're going to create a little setup to do op 2 and then start basically repeat the process. It's a little bit easier on the second side because It's all cosmetic. This side had some important features on it that we got to get dialed in. So yeah, I think we're pretty much there. Let's go do this. So it's a classic.
A lot of 3D surfacing. So we are pretty much almost done with the first operation here. The whole surface has been done, 3D surface, and then they just got done surfacing the pockets as well. So the pockets are designed in just to take out a bunch of weight, but also just adds to the aesthetic of the part.
Yeah, you can see we did the bigger scallops on this, so it's
we did some deeper scallops on the step over of the tool path here, so that there's some contrast in the pockets versus like the big main faces. But as you can see here, this is looking pretty nice.
Kind of clean up a surface here on both sides of it, and then we got a one here as well. So what I'll do is I'll flip this over, and now I've got a nice surface I can indicate on, and I'm going to set this as my Y0. And I use the same tool that we cut the outside of the part, so that way it's all true to itself. So we know that the center line of these notches is the exact center line of the part, and if I set this edge here, which is a machine surface that we did in this op, they'll be all tied to each other.
Yeah, and Rob made some custom fixture pieces, blocks that are going to bolt to this aluminum kind of subplate that he has in here. So then when it flips, we're going to locate on these flats right here, and then use some clamps to hold everything down, and then transfer the hole from the other side that's going to come through here. And then he will actually put the bolts down into those blocks, be able to pull the clamps off, and then have access to the entire surface, and then be able to 3D surface all of that.
Still nice and heavy.
Bottom side. We finished up the first op yesterday, and then he set up after I left and got the block flipped over, made these custom little spacers or risers so that he could get these socket head cap screws in these counter bores.
Yeah, so this guy, it's got two 1/2-13 bolts approximately about here that bolt these to the table, and then there's two 3/8/16 tapped holes in the top of this that this bolts into. So then what we'll do is we'll rough the whole thing out. We're gonna come in, shape the whole thing. I have these holes masked to avoid tool sliding in there. And then you've got some fillets, some rounds modeled in here. So what we're gonna do is we'll take this bolt out. I've got a program that shapes these two radiuses. It's doing these two. Then we'll put this bolt back in, take that bolt out, then it finishes that one. So just to kind of avoid hitting the bolt heads on it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. All right, let her rip.
Cool.
All right, the roughing's done. Getting ready to 3D surface this, and then after that we'll pocket everything out.
Good thing we didn't screw this up.
That's nerve-wracking when you just have one piece of material and you can't make a second.
One shot at getting it right.
And so many hours into it.
Yep.
There she is, guys.
All these chamfers came out real nice too.
Oh yeah. All right, so we showed you guys how we machined the transaxle cross-member piece. Now that was done on a 3-axis machine, meaning that, for those who don't know, the machine only moves at 3 axis, X, Y, and Z. Now we need to manufacture the end pieces that cross-member piece is going to bolt onto. And those end pieces will weld onto the chassis on each frame rail, left and right. And those we're doing on a 5-axis machine. And the reason for the 5-axis is it pretty much makes it a lot simpler for the work holding. You know, if a part's very complex, you can hold it in a vise one way, machine as much as you can get to, and then you might have to flip it, and depending on the planes that those features are on, you might have multiple setups. So now with this part, there's a lot of angled surfaces and everything, and it's a small enough piece that we can fit it in Rob's UMC 500, which is their 5-axis Haas mill. So this is the block that we're going to be machining that out of. Now, it's going to go in this 5-axis machine. So you have a platter that can rotate, and then you have a trunnion that also swings. And this is the self-centering vise that they're using. So we'll put the block in here, and then we won't be doing any 5-axis simultaneous work where all the axes are moving at once. We're just going to do positional work, meaning that all the axes are going to go to a certain orientation, put the block in a certain orientation, and then the spindle is going to come and mill what it can out of it. We're going to get that block set up in there right now, and then we'll show you that process. So here it is, all 3 parts machined. So you can see we added the steel threaded inserts. So these are the pieces that'll be welding to the frame rails on the chassis. And then these are the corresponding bolt holes that'll go through there. These are actually ever so slightly slotted just to allow for some room of chassis movement if the car goes through an impact or whatever. And you know, there's variability between OEM chassis CAD data versus, like, you know, the actual frame rail that Matt has. It's, you know, things differ a little bit. Nothing's perfect in real life. So that kind of guarantees that we can get this all together.
I've been waiting for this thing for a long time. I cannot wait to see it. You gotta be careful with the knife, dude. Don't want to scratch this thing.
No, you have the knife to kill it.
That was one thing that Chris said. Like, we can't scratch it because it's gonna go directly to anodizing, and we're trying to avoid any type of sandblasting or anything because it's just the sickest 3D surfacing ever. So we need to not mess it up. I don't know how we're gonna do that. We messed everything up.
Maybe this time we'll mask it.
Yeah, we need to wrap it in. Chris said that he wrapped it up in the proper stuff, but And we need to repack this thing nicely too, because it's got to go right to the anodizers after this. Oh, whoa. Dang, that thing's sweet, dude. Careful. Careful.
Come on, dude, just rip it open.
Yeah, I know. I want to. Holy freaking moly, dude. The pocketing in this and I love the 3D surfacing. I like it more than just like the completely flat, smooth, especially for something like this that's gonna get moved around and whatnot. Look at the details in here. Damn, Rob, you're a G. You're a freaking G, Rob. So back here, after anodizing, is where it gets all the thread certs. They'll get put in, Loctited, and then the transaxle mount goes here. This is where the collector mount will be, right here. And this gets welded to the frame rails, right here. Holy moly.
Why don't you show it to me, man?
We gotta remove this fucking, get this scratchy thing out of here.
Oh, that's not final?
Dangerous.
I thought that was final.
All right, this is it. And this is where it goes. Oh God, I don't even want to set it down on anything. It's so freaking nice. Whoa, look at that. Holy moly. It like clicks in perfectly. So this will get welded all the way around, and then a plate will come and pick up these 4 holes here and here. And holy moly, this thing's nice. Dude, I want to like tape this off and not paint this.
What, the pockets?
Yeah.
Leave them raw, that'd be kinda
no,
cool.
just the receiver there.
Oh yeah, that would be sweet.
Dude, look how nice that is. Oh my God. The process that you guys went through to do this, I know it's like pretty, oh yeah, it's just another billet part, but to just be involved in the process and see how much work Chris put into it, and the fact that these guys went in on the weekend to Rob's shop, man, thank you guys so much. It's unbelievable. It's way sicker in person, and I can't believe that this thing weighed like 59 pounds or something like that when you guys started. It's not bad at all. Pretty crazy. But can't just sit here and admire it forever. Time to start welding it to the freaking chassis. Let's go.